Good evening and welcome to Chris 180's Candid Conversation Series. I'm Chief Marketing Officer Chandra Luckett. Today we are talking about the holiday season, but it's not always merry and bright for each person in our lives, or maybe even us. Today we're going to stop to take a moment to talk about mental health and the holiday blues and how you can move past them. Our panelists today are Dr. Carol Pitts, the Clinical Director at Chris Counseling Center DeKalb, and Dr. Lisa Taylor, the new Director of the Institute for Spiritual Health here at Chris 180. Ladies, take it away.
I think a good place to start is by understanding a little bit about what the holiday blues are. Mm-hmm. In brief, the holiday blues are temporary feelings of anxiety or depression during the holiday season. It's that feeling of blah or that feeling of crankiness that can come when everyone else feels like they're all happy and in the holiday spirit. The holiday blues are a little bit different than seasonal affective disorder as well, and I think I want to clarify that. Mm-hmm. Seasonal affective disorder is caused by reduced amount of sunlight, okay, and it leads to depression, and that's a clinical condition. The holiday blues are situational. They're related to the holidays. It's not a clinical diagnosis. It can get severe if it lasts for a long time, okay, but generally it's situational.
It sounds like, as I'm hearing you talk about it, that one of them is situational, and one of them has to do with the amount of sun that people are getting, the time change, and different things like that.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And of course, the reduced hours of daylight can exacerbate feelings of holiday blues.
Okay. Well, what do people normally do when things like that are happening?
Well, the most important thing, first of all, is to recognize what's the cause of it. Because the holiday blues are caused by different things for different people. Mm-hmm. For example, high expectations can be one of the cause of the holiday blues. We go about our lives and we still, during the holiday season, have to do all the things we regularly do. And then there are all these other things piled on top of us. Getting gifts, holiday gatherings, events at schools, extra things on top of our daily lives, which leads to stress.
Okay.
So that can we begin to work with our own expectations so that we're realistic and we realize we don't have to do everything.
Mm-hmm. You know what it makes me think about? It makes me think about during the holiday season, the memories that we may have from childhood or from the past holiday seasons, whatever it's going on right then. And it makes me think about how sometimes people don't have good memories or things didn't go well, and now the holidays are coming and these memories and images of what was and what happened before are coming up.
That's exactly right. Bad memories can be a trigger, mm-hmm, okay? And they can trigger some of the feelings of being down. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we can think about doing when we have those bad memories is focusing on creating some new memories. Okay, and we can set limits. You know, if our bad memories are with people who are members of our family, we can say, okay, when I am with this person, it's not a good scene. Yes. So what boundaries and limits do I want to set? Saying no is a great way of putting some boundaries of good self-care, of thinking about what do I need to do to take care of myself to create more positive memories this year.
Yes. And another thing comes to mind for me is this thing around having a word or phrase that you can use. For instance, if you and your partner are going to spend holidays with family, and that's not really a good time, you might have a phrase like, "Can I have some chewing gum?" And that lets your partner know that it's time to go, I've had enough. So you'll have an exit strategy as well.
Yeah, that exit strategy is really helpful, and it can also reduce the tension there because you know there's a way out.
Yes. The other thing that I think about is reframing, because a lot of times we're bringing the memories from the past with us, but then being able to recognize, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling anxious because I'm going to go and be with these folks. But then being able to ask ourselves, okay, that was then. What's really happening right now? And then reframing the story around that might be a way for people to really deal with and overcome some of the holiday blues when they're having to interact with people who are not really good for them in that season.
That's a great idea and a great suggestion.
Thank you.
Another thing that I think can be really helpful is spending time outside. Nature can be really healing, whether it's to be outside to be in the light or whether it's to be outside to get exercise or just to be outside and breathe the fresh air and see the sunshine, if there's sunshine.
I hear you talking about getting moving.
Getting moving is really helpful. Yeah. Another thing that's really helpful in the holiday season is to keep your schedule as much as you can like a normal schedule. Getting out of routine is disorienting sometimes, and it can lead to a lot of stress, which then increases the feeling of being overwhelmed. So the more we can keep our schedules consistent, the easier it may be to deal with some of the harder pieces of the holidays.
It also makes me think about creating sacred spaces, whether it's sacred texts or it's music that you can listen to, or even being out in nature, having these sacred spaces where you just go to breathe. I'm mindful of the fact that sometimes the thing that we need in the moment is breath. And sometimes we forget to breathe, especially when we're anxious or we're going through things.
So true. So true. Sometimes it's back to the basics.
Yes.
And eating well. Getting a good night's sleep. Those things are also really helpful and really important. You know, and I also think remembering that we're human. We're not always going to be able to get the perfect gift for someone or have the calm, happy family. We need to remember that these families that we see in the holiday commercials on TV are fictional.
Yes. Yes, and that reminds me of something that you talked about earlier about boundaries, but I'm also hearing values. To be able to go back and be aware of our values and where they're coming from, and to be able to say, do those values serve me now? I think that's a wonderful thing to do during the holiday season,
Right.
when everybody looks happy.
Yeah, and then a part of it also can be, I may not be feeling happy now, but what am I grateful for? And beginning to do a journal of gratitude, because we begin to realize that even in the midst of our stress or strain or unhappiness or anxiety, there are a lot of people who are worse off than we are.
Yes.
So a gratitude journal can really help, and so can volunteering. Doing something for someone who is worse off can make us feel better.
Yes. And I want to share this because I'm not real big on journaling, but I do like the fact that at the end of the day, before I go to sleep at night, thinking about one or two things that I can be grateful for.
That's really important, and studies have shown that gratitude really does improve mental health.
Yes.
As you sort of reflect on your work and people you encounter, what have you found are some of the causes, and what have you seen of seasonal, of holiday stress?
I think for me, as I do this work, spirituality is about meaning and purpose. And so I find that during the holiday season, people are thinking about the memories and the stories, and sometimes they get stuck in what has been or how things should be. I call it the coulda, woulda, shouldas. And so they can get stuck there. And so a lot of times I like to ask, okay, this happened. What meaning are you making out of it now? And then just journey with people in the midst of that crisis, because I think sometimes when people are feeling the holiday blues, guilt and shame come up. And so they feel like it's wrong for me to feel this way. So I like to say, be aware of how you're feeling, accept how you're feeling, because a lot of times people want to get rid of it or not feel that way. And we spend a lot of times on, I don't want to feel this way, instead of saying, I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling overwhelmed. And then thinking about what strategies I may use at that time. And so that's one of the things that I find people are going through during the holiday season, that making meaning and purpose out of it. And I also think about creating new memories. How do we do that? And I know in my family, sometimes my children will say, well, we don't do this, that, or the other. Or we don't act like a family. And I'm like, well, what does acting like a family look like? And I give it back to them to start creating new traditions and memories for our family.
And I think sometimes for us, it's creating new traditions and memories as well. One of the things that's hard for a lot of people is a sense of loss. You know, my daughters have grown up and moved out.
Yes.
And they have family of, one of them has a family of her own and the other will be coming home. But it's always this sense of, it's not the same.
Yes.
And giving myself permission to recognize, no, it's not the same, but it's good.
Yes.
And I can create wonderful memories, and none of that takes away from the good memories I've had in the past.
Yes. You're reminding me of being in the Girl Scouts and the saying that we used to have. Make new friends, but keep the old ones. One is silver and the other one's gold. Yes.
Exactly. You know, and being with people is another great way of coping with stress. There's a way, I think, in the holiday season where we can be with too many people, and that's where it's important to know yourself. If you're an introvert, you're going to need a little bit of time to yourself before you're with a big lot of people or you go to a party, and then a little time to yourself on the other side. You sort of sandwich it.
Yes.
Okay? If you're an extrovert, you're going to get a lot of energy in it. But that's why it's so important to know yourself. And if you're struggling with the holiday blues, sometimes you feel isolated, and the last thing you feel like doing is being with other people.
Yes.
And yet being with other people can be really helpful and healing.
So what I hear you talking about is this sense of belonging and community. And some people would say finding our tribe during that season. And if you know that people are always negative, it might not be good to be around those negative people at that time. It might be better to be around people who are affirming, people who are validating, and people who can see you and what you're going through and be able to speak life into that thing.
That's well said. That's very well said. You know, and your comments about meaning and purpose bring something else to mind to me, and that is religious traditions can be a really big support for people and helping them. It can also be a barrier for a lot of people.
Yes.
And what I appreciate about your sense of meaning and purpose is it sounds like you're beginning to say that there's a spirituality in that.
Yes.
So we can connect with our spirituality implicitly through a sense of meaning and purpose.
Yes.
And seeking that out and living that out.
Yes,
and that's
absolutely.
a way of really connecting with what's bigger than we are.
Absolutely. And I love how you spoke about how religion can be a benefit, it can be a help, but sometimes it can be a hindrance because people come from different places. And so that's what I love about the work that I do, is because it's about spirituality and not religion. And we can journey with people. And I think that sometimes during the holidays when people are having the winter blues, it's a wonderful thing to have people around who can journey with you in it. Not tell you what you need to do about it, but to just be with you in it.
Exactly.
And give you space.
And be able to allow you to be sad if you need to be
Yes.
sad. Because there are times that we're going to be sad through the holiday season. If this is the first holiday season without a loved one, it's going to be hard.
Yes.
And expecting it to be hard is one of the ways we can cope with it and one of the ways we can work with it. And to be with people and find people who can give us their blessing. It's okay to be sad.
Yes.
You don't have to be happy.
Yes. And I
You
think
will
that's,
get through it.
yes, and I think that's one of the ways that we empower people, by giving them permission to be where they are, when they are, and just being with them in the midst of it.
So I have a final question for both of you. Since you're both mothers, and a lot of our target audience for this conversation are moms, right? Grandmothers, aunts, people who are motherly figures. There's a lot of invisible burden on moms and women in the holiday season. What would you say to someone who is feeling the impact of that stress and that burden right now?
Well, I would say if your Christmas outfit from last year does not work, if your holiday gear does not work from last year, get a bigger size. I would also say one of the gifts that my son gave me when he was 7 years old, I was a mom going through a divorce, and he said to me, "Mother, don't worry about buying me anything for Christmas. Buy my little brother and sister something." Now, that didn't stop me from buying him something, but it gave me this kind of permission to be aware of where I was, being separated, going through a divorce and all that. And it helped me to see my limitations, but it also helped me to be creative on what I could do for my children. So I think that's what I would say to moms.
Nice. And I think what I would say is be sure you take some time for yourself.
Yes.
That mothers do so much giving.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they get the wonderful gifts of receipt like you did with your son, and a lot of times they don't. And so be generous with yourself. Look at the expectations. Don't expect yourself to be everything to everyone. Be kind to yourself.
I hear you talk about self-compassion.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you all for being here this evening. We hope that you'll share this video with someone in your community who may need a little support. And if you need more support this holiday season, Chris 180 is here for you. All you have to do is go to our website, chris180.org, to schedule an appointment with one of our trained therapists. We'll be happy to talk to you. Have a good day and a wonderful holiday season.